Hey, I want to welcome you guys to Andrews the Podcast. Listen, I need you to come on ahead and tune in real fast. Hit the share button, hit the like button. Come on in here. We're going to talk about Lake City, South Carolina. And Lake City is pretty much toast. Pretty much toast. But you guys get in here. We're going to talk about this. But first, I'm going to play this. Lagging.
Nothing will. January 21st, 2026, the city of Lake City revealed the findings from a forensic audit. What came out of that audit should have every taxpayer asking major questions about Lake City, South Carolina. Here are the headline numbers. Here are just some of the headline numbers. Let me say that. Over $2 million. $2 million. That's the size of the financial hole that city leaders are sitting there trying to explain away. Now, listen to me closely here. I want to be clear. The new auditor says there was, and I quote, no clear fraud, unquote. But then he turns around and admits that there was systemic waste, poor controls, and no real oversight, but no fraud. Let's break this down. $1.5 million was sent to the wrong bank account because of a phishing scam. Now, federal authorities were able to recover $800,000 of this money, which means, just doing some simple math, that roughly $750,000 is still gone. Just gone. There was a $9,000 limousine ride on a city trip to Washington, D.C. This trip had no approvals. There was no clear justification for this trip. Yeah, I said that. $9,000 for a ride. Purchase orders. Basic elementary financial controls. This was either missing or ignored. Spending happened without bids, without documentation, without accountability. It was just a free-for-all. And when residents asked questions, simple questions like, where did the money go? The answer was vague explanations and promises of future, we're gonna do right moving forward. We're sorry, we're gonna do right moving forward. Nobody's gonna be held accountable, but we're gonna do right moving forward. They also promised a future report on what you already know. So let me ask you this. If this was your household, your business, or your bank account, would, quote, no fraud, just waste be good enough for you? Get in the comment section and tell me if that works for you. Because the reality is this was monopoly money. This was taxpayer public money. And to be honest, if this doesn't trigger louder questions, deeper scrutiny, or some real accountability, then the real problem isn't just the audit. It's actually what people are willing to accept. That's the problem.
And that's about as real as I can put it right there. Now, what I'm gonna do tonight is we all gonna sit here like a family, and we gonna listen to it all, right? Because I listened to it this morning, and then I basically, went across. I was listening for highlights, right? So I could do a quick video. I had a lot to do today, so wanted to get that out there because this is a big story. But I think this is symbolic of what's going on in yeah, the story in Lake City is fascinating to me because again, I think it represents what's happening in a lot of these small towns and why a lot of these small towns fail and why a lot of these small towns are going to continue to fail. Um, so listen, we're gonna watch this right here. Don't know if charges are coming. Seem like they should be, but I'm not a lawyer, and I don't. All right, this video right here that I'm gonna play, you can go watch the whole thing without my commentary on Christian TY News. That's exactly who recorded this video. And so
I am Mayor Pro Tem Cooper.
All right, so that's Mayor Pro Tem Cooper. I'm not going to bore you guys with that. Mayor Pro Tem Cooper is going to get up there. She's going to explain that. The mayor is going to join them shortly. The people over to her left side over there, that's her members of council, and they're going to introduce themselves. I think the white guy there, I think that's the auditor. But I'm going to skip ahead again because it's just a bunch of formalities. You know what I mean? And then the new city administrator gets up there and he talks about the role of government and and how just a bunch of stuff. But then he gets up to the point where he brings the auditor up. Let's get up to this point here. Because he talked for a minute. As a matter of fact, I think somebody told him, look, hey, wrap it up. So we'll start here with the current city administrator of Lake City about to bring up the auditor. And then we're going to go through. Let me see. Can I get some speed on this? Anyway, we'll play that regular speed. Anyway, Christian TY News is where this came from.
I want to thank City Council for making the difficult but necessary decision to fund this forensic audit. Accountability is not cheap, but the cost of ignoring problems is much greater. So without further ado, I want to introduce Brandon and take it away, sir.
Well, I don't think my girlfriend could have given me a much better introduction than that, so I appreciate that, Mal. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the city of Lake City. I apologize for the delay in getting this to you guys. I promise I will explain why it has been delayed a couple of times, but hey, we're here. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I do have one minor disclaimer.
Good evening, everyone. I am Mayor Pro Tem Cooper. The mayor will be
Work for last shifts, and then to hear directly from the professional.
Is that please forgive me from being from California. So let's go over the basics of this forensic audit. The timeline was looking at fiscal year 2022, 2023, and 2024. Now, for those of you that don't know accounting language, that means these specific dates, July 1st of 2021 through June 30th of 2024. That is the basis of the information that I was looking at. We were asked to perform an analysis over the books and records. Now, what does this look like? General ledger, bank statements, credit card statements, receipts, invoices, council minutes, bid documents. All of this was open to us, and we certainly used it as necessary. We also did voluntary interviews. I will not disclose the names of the individuals we interviewed, but what I will say is we interviewed 12 individuals, some from the past administration and some in the current one. So we got a well range of different individuals and their perspectives. As Mr. Malik has already told you, I offered an email to certain individuals saying, hey, if This was during the time that you were working at the city of Lake City. If you would like to comment or talk to me, that information is available to you. One individual took response to it and called me out of the blue. We had a productive conversation, and immediately after that, I immediately called the city of Lake City and said, well, I've got some things to follow up on just to make sure what I was told was true, but I do not want to delay having this meeting again. So that's why, again, he said this is not officially completed. The report will be completed within 2 weeks of today. So they will have the report by that time. So again, extremely close to being done, which is why I feel comfortable providing these results. When it comes to a forensic accounting engagement versus a financial statement audit, he already did very well in explaining it. The only other thing that I will add is some people expect a forensic audit to look over every single transaction. I promise you, not only did I not do that, I'm sure the city could not afford me to look over every single transaction. So what we do is we take a risk-based approach. The first thing we do is we look over all of the city council minutes to see what was on their minds, what they were concerned about. Then we perform interviews with city personnel. And during that conversation of those interviews, in addition to obtaining information from them regarding certain things that we've heard or certain things we see, we do ask them specifically, what are areas that you working here were concerned about? What were some things that bothered you? And then from there, we select sample testing. We will look at that testing. And then if we have questions or even more concerns, we will continue to do follow-up interviews. I want to start this meeting by defining specific terms. The first is the F word, fraud. Okay? Fraud has a specific definition, which is someone lied, concealed, was deceitful on something, and they did so to receive a benefit, and someone else got hurt. Pretty straightforward. Waste is mismanagement of funds, meaning that they had the opportunity to maybe not buy something or something wasn't necessarily needed, but that money was still spent. And then, of course, abuse is where they take something that belongs to the city and uses it not for its intended purpose. Here is a overview of all the information for the bank statements specifically that was under our scope period. As I mentioned, I did not look over every single one of these transactions. We do see that we had about 90 million in disbursements, about 87 million in deposits. And then from there, we took out the transfers, because obviously transfers, inter-fund transfers were from going from one place to another. So in summary, there was 74 million worth of disbursements and 71 million worth of deposits. Now, I'm sure it doesn't take a genius to figure it out. That means there was $3 million that went out of your bank that didn't come in. Overspending. Pretty straightforward. So that in and of itself told us that disbursements were going to be the thing that we were looking into the most, not the deposits. Then we move on to the credit cards. The credit cards was actually a huge headache for us. To put it mildly, what ended up happening was during the course of the engagement, we went to the city and we said, we would like all credit card activity that you have. We were provided with 13 different credit card accounts. I guarantee you that is more than 13. Up there is 21. Now, what happened is that when we were provided 13, we were looking at the dates and we go, hey, you know.
All right, he said they gave him 13, but you're looking at 21.
Oh, we have they're showing a prior balance, but we don't have the prior statements. What's going on? I would like to give a shout out to Miss Amanda Turner, who spent 3 hours with me on the phone with the city's credit card company, discussing specifically what was going on with these credit cards. At the end of the day, we found out that, if I recall, the number was 9 times or 10 times. It'll be correct in my report, but I'm pretty sure it was 9 or 10 times. The city had external fraud within the credit cards where they had to cancel and reissue a new card. And so during that scope and time period, some of that information due to turnover and due to the documents available to us, they did not know that they had some other specific credit card statements. So we specifically reached out to the credit card company and got those statements. So I know we were supposed to talk with you guys in, was it December that we originally had? Yeah, December 9th. The reason we did not make that specific date was so we could obtain all the other credit cards that we did not have. So I wanted to explain to you why the delay. Okay, now from the testing sample, we did 40 transactions related to bank accounts. During our interviews, it was made very clear to us that one of the main concerns was over travel reimbursement. They were not afraid, but let's use the word, they were concerned about whether or not the policies and procedures for travel reimbursements were handled appropriately. So half of that 40, 20 were dedicated to just travel reimbursements. The other 20 was related to other types of vendors that we were interested in trying to determine what that money was used for those specific vendors. When we looked at that, we saw no purchase orders were noted. That will be a common theme, unfortunately, during this particular meeting. Now, for those of you that do not know what a purchase order is, a purchase order is a tool used to budget the city's money. What happens is it's a contract pretty much within the city and to the vendor. We are going to spend this amount of money on this vendor. No more. We don't go past that. No purchase orders were used for the purchases that we reviewed. The credit cards, obviously with all the 21 that we saw, we combined them all and looked specifically at the payee names. And we looked for ones that specifically didn't seem like something we would see a city spend money on. For example, one of the ones that we did test was one from GameStop. And for those of you that don't know what that is a video game company. So to us, it was, okay, why is the city spending money on this? Now, through the support documentation and through interviews, I know exactly what that money was used for. And I'm not going to say it was appropriate, but what I will say is that I understand the business side of it. That money, for the record, for GameStop was used to help with AgeCom and esports. So that was a program that was being done here at the city. So at least I know what it was used for, but obviously whether or not it was appropriate or not is not up for me to decide. We saw that there were a full section worth of receipts that are missing from August to September of 2023, meaning that any receipts during that period of time were not made available to us. There are a couple of transactions that we tested that were within that specific time frame. That's why that we know that they are not available to us. When it comes to the purchases, both on credit cards and bank statements, the city's policy as of right now is that anything below $1,000 could be approved by a department head. Anything between $1,000 and $5,000 requires 3 quotes before the purchase is conducted and being approved by the city administrator and the department head. Anything above $5,000 is supposed to go to the city council for approval and more than likely a competitive bid. This is documented in the financial policy that is online right now. So you can test that if you need to. The payroll that we looked at 25 personnel files to validate if the internal controls were being done appropriately on those files. There's something called a personnel action form. This is actually well known, well common amongst all government entities. Again, I do school districts, I do colleges, I do special districts. All of them use this personnel action form. Your city does the same. What it does is it's a form that summarizes this person is getting hired, this person is getting terminated, this person is getting a raise, this person is getting a bonus. Without this form, someone could walk in, literally update their salary to whatever number they wish, and we would have no way of determining whether or not it was approved or not. So without these forms, we do not know if something, an action that was taken, was actually approved. Out of the 25 personnel files, 13 personnel action forms were missing. And from there, in addition, we noted several that had missing approval signatures, meaning I was expecting a signature from the city administrator or from the department head or from the individual that was actually being hired. And those signatures were missing on those forms. The timesheets, we selected 40 timesheets to look at. The good news was there was no abnormal adjustments noted, meaning that what they showed on the timesheet matched what they were paid. However, there were 2 that were completely missing and could not be found. The bidding. When it came to the bidding, we noted that there were 80, even forensic auditors make mistakes. So let me solve this mistake. We identified 80 purchases over 5,000. That is not true. We identified 80 payees that had a purchase of $5,000 or more. So that will be something I will have to fix and update on the presentation. My apologies. So from there, though, we wanted to see, okay, so we have these 80 vendors, 80 payees that the city spent more than $5,000 on in one transaction. We should see bidding documents. We should see city council approval. We should see them following the policy. Of the 6 that we tested, first off, we noted a couple of times where the bidding process was actually sent to another vendor. For example, the one that I give here, I'm going to butcher that name. Again, I'm an accountant, not an English major. AECOM was the vendor that completed the bidding process for the city in regards to a construction project. Now, if you look at the city council minutes, the person that was the lowest bidder was recommended to the city council, and that is who the city council approved. So the bidding process was fulfilled, which is good. It was just interesting to see that gathering the bids was handed off to this company, and that actually happened a couple of times. However, there were some that we did note that the bidding process did not go through, meaning that they did not get bidded, they just selected a particular vendor. One of them we identified as a conflict of interest. Now, for those of you that do not know what that means that somebody knew somebody else that's part of the family that basically was hired. This is where I feel like I need to read a specific statement out loud. This is the City of Lake City's Financial Policies and Procedures Manual. No employees or members of board/council and its volunteers shall be excused from complying with the procurement purchasing policies and procedures set forth in this manual. So that's the first thing I wanted to read. And then here it says town officers, employees, and members of advisory boards council should have no relationship, financial or otherwise, with any entity with which the city does business or with any potential supplier that may be construed as a conflict of interest. Any purchase that does take place in which an officer, employee, or a board council member holds a substantial interest requires written public notice prior to such purchases being made. If in doubt about any situation, an individual should review the details with their supervisor and consult with counsel. Now, why do I read that out loud? When we asked for all the support documentation related to this vendor after it was brought to our attention that the vendor had a conflict of interest, we did not see any documentation showing that that had occurred. So as far as we are concerned, this vendor was selected and chosen without the city council's knowledge or approval. Federal grants. Now, the one thing that I do want to disclose to all of you is I used to be the financial auditor for cities just like this. That used to be my job. I did that for quite a long time and have a primary experience in that background. So this helps with my fraud and forensic work because what it does do is it tells me I know what the financial auditors are going to do, what they're going to look at. And if they're going to look at something, it does me no good to waste your guys' money and looking at something that's going to be looked at 20 times over. So with that said, in the first year, the financial auditors selected these 2 federal grants, waste disposal systems and rural communities. In 2023, they just looked at 1, waste disposal systems for rural communities. Even though that is where primarily the federal grant money is for you guys, I didn't think it was best for me to look at the water and waste disposal systems for rural communities since it had been done 2 times in a row. So instead, I chose the next 2 highest, which turned out to be the Environmental Protection Agency wastewater treatment plant grant funds and the COVID recovery funds, as most people here would be calling it ARPA. And looking at the EPA agency wastewater treatment, we didn't see anything that would cause us any concern or findings there. The thing that we did find is that the primary contractor or payee that was for most of that funding was the bidding went out to a different vendor and then they approved it, just like I had mentioned before with the Digger Deeper. And we also found out that it doesn't sound like, at least, that the particular vendor had been looked up on SAM.org to verify that they are compliant to do work with federal funds. For some of you that may not know this, as Mr. Malik has stated, there's a lot of compliance things involved, and so certain vendors are allowed to be used for federal funding, some are not. Most of the time, they are allowed to do so, but just in case, they have a website dedicated where you can take a look and make sure that vendor is indeed allowed to work on those. Now moving on to ARPA funds, COVID recovery funds. This did show possible non-compliance with the spending of those funds. Now, yes, this is a very generic statement. I will be more detailed now about it. During the scope period time frame that we looked at, there was $3.2 million that was received in these funds. And within these funds, the city is supposed to request how those funds are supposed to be spent and allocated. Looking at a third-party website, the National League of Cities Local ARPA Investment Tracker, it specifically showed the following information: that the city had requested these funds be used for revenue replacement, affordable housing, Church Street tank rehabilitation and repair, premium pay essential employees, and Graham pump station relocation. ARPA, the government, had decided that out of all those projects, only one was selected to have been using the $3.2 million. That was the revenue replacement. All funds were allocated to that specific purpose. The city council was aware of this and noted in the minutes that their intent was to use it for premium pay for eligible employees. This is documented within the council minutes, and they did fulfill that promise. So let me make that very clear right now. They did fulfill that particular statement that they said that they would do. With that said, there were other transactions that were noted within those particular funds that, let's just say, don't appear to be appropriate, don't appear to be in compliance. I have thus communicated this to both the city, current city administration, and also to the financial statement auditors. They are reaching out to the state to see whether or not these expenditures are deemed appropriate by them. So that's why I said appears possibly to be non-compliance. I'm not going to hold anyone in suspense. I will tell you what those transactions are. There were transactions that went to affordable housing projects, which again, that's what they did ask for. And then the other thing that we saw was 7 trucks that went to the police department. So again, whether or not that will be compliant or not, that is not my job. My job is simply to find it. Now let's talk about some examples of spendings and losses. As I mentioned before, you saw $3 million of disbursements that went out above $71 million worth of deposits. Looking into this information, we wanted to see specifically, okay, that's, $3 million that went out more. What was this used for? Was it fraud? Was it waste? What was it? So to get to the heart of the matter here, to put a pin in it, brass tacks, what I would say is that there was no patterns showing systemic fraud. There were patterns of possibly systemic waste. So as I mentioned before, giving you guys the definitions, you know what it is I'm trying to say. Going into more detail though, I would like to summarize these specific 4 blocks for specific examples. And looking into some of the documentation, we became aware that the city had a external fraud that had occurred. I don't know if anyone here is knows the term phishing, and that's not with an F. I love that kind of phishing for sure. But I'm talking about the PH phishing, where someone hacks your email, sends an email saying, hey, send me some money, you do so, and that money is gone. Unfortunately, that happened with the city. The city had a legitimate vendor that they were doing business with. That vendor got hacked, and that vendor had someone send an email saying, we know that you need to send us this payment. Please send it to this place, not this place. The city made that payment. They caught it pretty quickly, forwarded it to the FBI and also to the insurance carriers to let them know, hey, we need an investigation done to determine where this money went, to stop it, to try to get the funds back. So the total amount of that particular external fraud case was $1.5 million. That was the payment that went out. Now, from the $1.5 million, $800,000 was recovered, therefore resulting in a $700,000 net loss. So that is what the first square I am talking about. The second one was city events. When I got here, I was told about all kinds of interesting events that you guys had. I would love to hear your guys' take on whether they were fun or not. I heard of Juneteenth. I've heard of AgeCom. I've heard of Festival of Lights, Gardens of something, Food Truck Rodeo. I could go on and on and on. From those events, however, I was told that money was being collected from the people that were attending. So from the money coming in and the money coming out, there was a $350,000 loss. Okay. Now, again, this is all based on information that's been provided to me. It'll be more detailed in my report. Just for this particular presentation, I'm trying to keep it as simple and as summary as possible. Extensive travel costs. I also heard during interviews, and by the way, I should say this, I felt very comfortable and good with the interviews that I had. As was mentioned, I'm a certified forensic interviewer. I did not feel at any point in time someone was being deceptive with me. I felt they were being honest and they were being truthful in what they had to say, even admitting to some things that I'm sure they were uncomfortable talking about. So when it came to the extensive travel costs, it came to my attention that there were some travel expenses that went for the specific time frame. Heard about travel to Georgia, to Washington, D.C., to Florida, to Canada, to a couple of other different places. So from those, looking at the travel costs, some of those we understood the purpose for the visit, and the purpose for those visits were business appropriate, meaning there was a legitimate business reason why individuals were there. Now, whether or not certain things should have been spent on those particular business trips is definitely up to interpretation. What I can tell you specifically is there were some transactions from those travels that did not comply with the city's policies. For example, there was a trip to Washington, D.C., where a limo was involved. That limo was $9,000. When it came to the $9,000 limo, as I just mentioned earlier, any one transaction above $5,000 needs to go out for bid or needs to be approved by the mayor and city council. From the support documentation that I received, I did not see any written approval. Now, what I'm saying is maybe it was done verbally, don't know. What I will say is that I look at documentation first because obviously there's more facts in that regard. Unused vehicle. We also found that there were some vehicles that were purchased that were not used, meaning that they were purchased to be used, but instead they just sat on the lot and were not used. Now, from those, all of that has acquainted to specifically internal control breakdowns. And that's what I want to share definitely tonight, and what Malik has already said that has been turned around. As I was going through all of these particular instances, all these sample testings, all these particular things that I saw, I wanted to know, is this still a problem? Because if it is, it needs to stop. So some of these problems have already been addressed. For example, Purchase orders are now being used. So that's good. We want to hear that. Now, the issue is also, how do we stop that from not happening again? Because if you look at, I even asked for the financial policy manuals for previous years, not just the scope period, just to see, was there a time that even purchase orders were not being used, and then they just wanted to go back to what was being done and something else. It's always been in the financial policy that purchase orders are supposed to be used. That was for me, sorry. With that said, the policy did say the purchase orders were always supposed to be used. So the goal is, how do we make sure that doesn't happen again? And I have recommendations in my report to both the city council and to this current administration to make sure that that doesn't happen again. Some of the things, though, that I would like to point out specifically in regards to some of this you've already heard. No purchase orders were being used. Not all personal charges may have been refunded to the city. Now, let me explain what that means. When it comes to making purchases on a credit card, someone has a credit card, they make the purchase. They are supposed to turn in a receipt. That receipt is supposed to be reviewed by the city, making sure that that is indeed not a personal purchase, but for a legitimate reason. I'm sure it won't surprise everybody that there are sometimes those receipts don't come in right away. And so because of that, the city is faced with a not difficult choice, but a choice that most cities do, which is, okay, we need to make the payment this month. We can't just not pay the bill because we don't know whether or not this is a personal purchase or not. So they make the payment, and then if they find out later that it was for a personal purchase, they're supposed to follow up and make sure that that money was indeed refunded. I did find an instance where a personal purchase was made on a credit card using the city's money. That particular purchase was brought to the city administrator's attention. The city administrator did make sure that that individual did pay that particular transaction that had occurred. Obviously, that shows a breakdown in internal controls, meaning the individual shouldn't have even been able to make the purchase itself. But at least there was still internal controls in place where it was caught, it was addressed, and it was refunded. However, during my interviews, I did ask the question, do you think there were some transactions that went through that possibly may not have been refunded? Unfortunately, I did receive yes to that question. So that's why I say that specifically. So I do not have an example specifically of when this occurred, but I do have an example of when it did occur and the amount was refunded appropriately. That is the summary of my report as it sits as is. Now, as I mentioned before, my report will be way more comprehensive. It will show specifically the specific 40 transactions that I tested for the bank statement. It will show specifically the 60 transactions I tested for the credit cards. It will be way more in detail. And again, that should be provided to the city within the next 2 weeks. Again, we got more information that we wanted to verify before we issued our report. So I will take any clarifying questions.
So I guess the protocol is to start with council and then allow citizens to come up. Remember, we're asking clarifying questions to Mr. Brandon about the report.
We doing council first and then the citizens. If you
Come to the mic. Yes, ma'am. You're addressing Mr. Waldron directly.
Okay. Mr. Waldron, good evening, everyone. I want to thank you for your in-depth struggle to get this information to us. And with the information that you have, do you see any changes in the internal controls as it relates to fiscal year 24 and 25?
When it comes to fiscal year 2024 and 2025, no, that was outside of my scope. However, I did see definitely changes for the 2025-2026. And that was just because as I was interviewing the individuals about the internal controls at that time, I would follow it up with, have these been changed since then? And they said, yes, just recently we started doing purchase orders again. We started doing more of the bidding documents this time around. So that kind of stuff does show change for 2025, 2026. But when it comes to the 2020,
the question is moving forward. What is what he's doing sustainable? What are the checks and balances that they're going to put in place to make sure that this foolishness doesn't take place again and take this city down?
For 2025 time frame, I don't know of any changes. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of these findings that I noted were in your financial statement audit.
Okay, thank you.
So was a gentleman. Was a gentleman that had a question?
Well, we were doing the city administrators first.
Come on, yes, sir. Get your steps in today. Come on.
Do I need to use
Yes,
this?
sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Presenter. My
Oh,
question,
sorry to interrupt you. Who am I addressing?
I'm Haley Green.
Thank you, Mr. Green.
I would like for you to make clarification to me as to what year am I correct to say you are covering 23? Was it 23 to the present?
It was from July 1st of 2021 through
2021. Okay,
June
yes.
30th of 2024,
Right.
which is fiscal year 2022, 2023, and 2024. Anything before that date or after that date, we did not look at.
Okay. My reason for a question to you with your report. Now, the guideline for the particular elected officers is that audit report. I didn't hear you say too much about audit reports at intervals. That audit report to the elected officials' meetings is a guideline to those persons. You only spend what you take in. Now, from 21, I don't know how many audit reports should have come up as to whether they are monthly, or semi, or whatever might be. But it is definitely with finance is a guideline. Now, the omission of the audit report, that's what I was looking for you to come up with and say. I was just trying to count the time that you were covering certain areas as to whether any audit reports was omitted. Now, if there was audit reports being omitted over this period of time, yes, I could see where finance engine jump off the track. But that audit reports keeps a check on the officials as
That young fella right there sharp. Y'all better listen to what he's saying. What he's saying is that there are already checks and balances built into this system. So if they were following the system that was already in place, they wouldn't be right here where they at today.
they are proposing or anything that might come up that they are going to purchase or accepting or hiring, as far as that is concerned. But that audit report, the timing seemingly was being omitted. And that is a flashing green light and
That's a
flashing
crime if
red
you ask
light
me.
to officers.
And he is asking a very pertinent question. And he's, to me, he's he's asking this auditor to stop pussyfooting around. What to me, what he's getting at is that they were just, you know, they were just wild about it. Go ahead, young fella.
Persons that in charge. And it is something that we just can't take lightly, that audit report. And that's the only thing that I was kind of.
He is 110,000% correct.
Keying on and listening, that you bring that up.
Well, here's what I will say. I know about what you're talking about because I read the whole financial policy from cover to cover. And on an airplane, ironically, plenty of time to read at that point. I know exactly what you're talking about. That was supposed to be disclosed on a monthly basis. That was what it says specifically in the policy.
So if that's what it is, man, like all that little on the airplane and all that food talk, like you talking down to people, that don't make no sense to me. The man asks you a direct question. Okay, so I'm already this auditor right here. You know what I mean? You did a great job, but I mean, the man asks you a direct question. What is the history of the audit report? Did they do it regularly, that monthly audit report? And I'll find out more about whether that's a regular thing in government. Is that something that government's supposed to do regularly when on Tuesday night when I have the mayor back on?
As far as the monthly reports, I'll be honest, we did not look into those. And the reason being was...
Oh, shit. I'm sorry. He just answered the damn question. That old man just came in there and shook the damn... Damn. Check this out.
And it is something that we just can't take lightly, that audit report. And that's the only thing that I was kind of keying on and listening, that you bring that up.
Well, here's what I will say. I know about...
You can say all you want to say. He about to say he know all about it now. But the old man then come in there and then flip that on the head, bro. Just because you light-skinned don't mean you right-skinned.
What you're talking about because I read the whole financial policy from cover to cover. And on an airplane, ironically, plenty of time to read at that point. I know exactly what you're talking about. That was supposed to be disclosed on a monthly basis. That was what it says specifically in the policy. As far as the monthly reports, I'll be honest, we did not look into those. And the reason being was...
Now he making me think he a liar. Because when he start there, I'll be honest, that's what the hell this whole thing here is supposed to be about, be honest. And like the man say, you ain't look at that, bro. Lake City. Y'all better pay attention. Y'all better pay attention.
This is because I thought it was more important to look at the specific transactions as a whole and what was...
Because you thought it was more important, yet this man said right here and said that the only thing he was waiting for was that audit report, because that is the telltale sign. He's telling you that's the marker that you look for. Let's go.
Actually done rather than what was being presented to the city council.
Okay.
No, he's talking about the monthly reports that the city administrator is supposed to provide to coming out. Correct.
Monthly financial statements, yes.
That's what he was responding to.
All right, next.
Come on up.
Come on up. We want everybody to see it here.
Good evening, everyone. Okay. I think maybe I'm here to get just more of a clarification. I came in a bit late, so I may have missed some information. But one thing I wanted to ask, when you were talking about the bids or the bidding, and you said that naturally that they're not supposed to go to certain people if they're family members or whatever. Can you tell us who's responsible for the bidding process? That whole kind of...
The question is, because we've seen this before, the question is, what happens to them when they do this? That should be, and I'm not saying that that should be her question, but that's what I'm asking. Like, we've seen this before, buddy system. We've seen Georgetown County Councilman Raymond Newton question rather why local companies weren't getting the contracts for the solar farm over there in Lambertown, as if local companies are insured the contract because they got the best bid. I think that's what the people spending taxpayers' money should be doing, looking out for the best bid. What y'all getting is a lesson in economics, right? There's 3 ways to spend money, right? The one way to spend money is you spending your money on you. The other way to spend money is you spending somebody else's money on you. And then the other way to spend money is you spending somebody else's money on somebody else. And that all 3 of those come with a certain mental state. Shouldn't, but it does. But we'll get into that on another show.
Our program, or whatever you would call it.
Yes, I could do that for sure. And by the way, who am I addressing?
Oh, my name is Betty.
Is Betty?
Uh-huh.
Okay, nice to meet you, Betty.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, so the process is that well, I'm going to tell you how the process is supposed to go, because theoretically, a purchase, like for example, purchase orders. I've already mentioned purchase orders were not being done. And so if a purchase order was to have been done, what would have ended up happening is they would go, okay, we need to do a request for this type of work or for this particular project or this particular product to be bought. Mm-hmm. In that request process, before the purchase order is even approved, they would go, hey, this particular expenditure is going to be more than $5,000. Mm-hmm. Then that information would have been brought to the city administrator. The city administrator would have communicated that to the board. Hey, we got this expenditure that we need to go out for a bid for, and we'll start the bidding process with your approval. The city council will say, yes, please go out and do the approval. Then they go out for the bid. They usually do an RFP, which, by the way, was a little surprising to me because that's how we were hired, meaning the city of Lake City did do an RFP. So it was interesting to me where I go, okay, well, it was done right to select us, but when I looked at some of the other expenditures, I didn't see anything.
See, it's obvious to me that we got to get our state legislatures, Ronnie Sapp, to start writing legislation to criminalize some of this behavior that's happening. They should not be able to take the people's money and just walk away like, oh, my bad. There should be repercussions to this.
But when you go out for an RFP, people submit the bidders, mm-hmm. Lowest bidder is selected, and then that information is brought to the city council for a recommendation. We recommend based on quality, based on price, based on all these lovely factors, and those, by the way, are deliberate.
And that's what it sounded like needs to happen in Georgetown County, a forensic audit. I'm not saying that anything is going to be wrong, but when I hear Raymond Newton in council meeting say that, hey, the local boys aren't getting any contracts, how does he know that? The local boys coming to him and saying that? Well, the local boys need to get their bid together because the county is looking for should be looking for the best product at the best price for the taxpayers. Not just, well, it's not my money, whatever, which is what happens most of the time.
Labeled in the financial policy manual. Based on this, we recommend blank. And then the city administrator will say to the city council, we recommend this. They will then agree. They'll vote yes or no. If they agree, then the work is then pressed forward. A purchase order is then created at that time. Okay. A purchase order is not created until the city council gives their blessing. Mm-hmm. Then once they give the blessing, the purchase order is then set up, the work is started, and a payment is issued. That's from start to finish. normally how this kind of thing is supposed to happen.
Okay, thanks. And you answered my next question because I wanted to know how you guys were chosen. Oh, and you also answered my next question because I wanted to know how you guys were chosen to do the audit. So thanks for that. Okay.
Well, just for the record, I saw the RFP. We submitted the bid for the RFP. We got selected. We saw that it was approved. I don't know who got the bidding docs, meaning I can't confirm whether it was ACOM or the other Ardura or any of the other types of other vendors that looked at our information and then gave it away. I did not look at the bidding documents for our bid. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, if I'm understanding correctly, or if I understood correctly,
This would be the last question.
am I getting too technical?
No. You're doing fine. You're doing fine. We just want to give everybody an opportunity.
Oh, okay. When you mentioned about the federal grants and the one pertaining to the COVID
Yes, ma'am.
grant, you said that there was only one particular issue, or I don't know if that's the correct term I would use, that they looked at in order to fund a particular program. They only looked at one out of more than one. Did I understand you correctly when you said that?
The areas of those. Okay, thank you. I needed help there. Okay, so the city had sent proposals to the federal government, the state government, saying, with these funds, we intend to do these particular projects. Do we have your approval?
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, the ones that manage ARPA said specifically, we are sending you $3.2 million. And of this 3.2, we have obligated, and that was the word that I used, that you spend these funds for this specific purpose. And as I said, if you go, that's a public website, by the way, so anybody could look it up. If you look it up specifically, the only thing that it was obligated to was the revenue replacement, and that the city council had specifically said with those funds, they were going to give it for premium pay for eligible employees. And that is in the city council minutes. That is extremely straightforward there.
Share with them the other categories.
The other categories were affordable housing, which again, when you look at that, it says specifically, adopted budget, 0, program earned, 0, total expended, 0. I mean, that was 0 all the way. Then we have the Church Street Tank rehabilitation and repair, the premium pay essential for employees, and the Graham Pump Station relocation. Those were the 5 that were submitted.
Okay, what about the 7 trucks? Did you not mention anything about 7 trucks?
The 7 trucks, thank you. Looking at the general ledger for this particular funds, it shows that some of that money went to purchasing 7 trucks.
What kind of trucks? I mean,
They were Tahoes. Some were white, some were black, and it was noted specifically that they were, some of them were for the police department.
Okay. Is all that on the website?
Okay, so let me be clear on that. So the 5 programs that I talked about and whether the funds were obligated to those particular programs, that is public information and on the website. As far as where the money went from that, that is in the general ledger of the city. That is not public.
Well, I have some more, but I'll let somebody else.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Wilhelmina Scott, council member. Thank you for that report. So the public can hear how did we get here? First, I blame our audit. Each year we had an audit, and every year everything was good. And we adopted that and accepted it. But then now you come up and say that you had to have fraud auditing going on all these years that I've been on city council because we're not accountable for what happened. This didn't happen overnight. It's a process in how this money was spent. And they had good enough time that each year, once the audit report was good, so you go ahead and you continue to go back in the bucket again. So I do blame the audit. And then me as a council voted for what I thought was right.
What she's admitting to is that she didn't read and question anything. As nice as she may be, but she did not read anything. So for her as a council member to sit over here and act as if she's not part of the problem is part of the problem.
All these years that I've been on city council, because we're not accountable for what happened. This didn't happen overnight. It's a process in how this money was spent. And they had good enough time that each year, once the audit report was good, so you go ahead and you continue to go back in the bucket again. So I do blame the audit. And then me as a...
I get what she's saying, but just that language alone, going back in a bucket again, is why we right here.
Council voted for what I thought was right. Doesn't always mean you're right, but then you try to do what you think is pleasing to keep the city moving. But I do say I thought we had bad audit report saying that everything was so good, and they left smiling saying that everything was good, and it wasn't.
So the question, and you as with your experience as an auditor,
Correct.
can you explain the difference in a kind of as plain as possible? I think I tried, but could you explain the difference between what an annual government audit does and what you're doing?
Yes, I could do that. I'll try to do that in a more simplistic way that has nothing to do with finances. When it comes to a financial audit, they are required.
I hate they're talking down to the people of King Street like this. I hate that they're talking down to these people because these people understand. These people are not stupid. The shit boils down to common sense. You spending money you don't fucking have. You don't have to break it down to no goddamn common sense and none of that bullshit that you up there shooting to these people. These people are awful damn. They elected bad people.
Required to look at everything that is material. That's the key word. And there's a calculation.
Right, we don't have to look at everything and know. Well, I mean, that's the problem. Is that we see it so simply to where all that complicated bullshit is bullshit, bro. I don't have to eat a whole cow to know I'm eating beef.
That determines what is material, and then they look at all accounts and balances that are material. They check compliance with all the things that they need to check for compliance on, which, by the way, as a government financial auditor, there is a long list of compliance things they need to check up on. They need to check up on compliance with federal grants, with state grants. They need to check on specifically ordinances within the state. They need to look at a ton of different things. So they take bits and pieces from each specific kind of bucket that is known to be material and is material. Fraud and forensics, what we tend to look at is something more specific in detail, right? So to put...
This is another example of like where you've got people getting involved in shit that is way more serious than they know. And, you know, they want to put on a facade and put on an image that they know and they do this here. And so, you know, they councilmen and they this and that. That's how Andrews got in the position that it was. This is what happened in Andrews. Same type of retarded, unabated bullshit is what it is. I mean, I'm not even going to mix words with it. because like my man said right here, 1 + 1 is 2. So all these other excuses and reasons as to why they doing this. This is why, again, we got to push our damn representatives to push for legislation to stop this kind of damn thing here. Because these small towns will die moving forward in the future because of this kind of bullshit, right? Okay. And the mayor, I don't know if she made it there or not yet, but some charges need to be brought up against somebody or something. This is bullshit. Okay. And then y'all got this man, this condescending bastard up here talking down to these people. When I watched it earlier today, it was hard to watch because he thinks the more complicated he sounds, the smarter he sounds. When the old man already shut his shit down already, period, point blank, in the damn game, dunked on his ass. Sat in that whole thing. Okay, sir, everything you said, I'm hearing that, but I didn't hear you mention anything about those monthly audits.
This in a more simplistic term. If I was making a Thanksgiving dinner for you, the audit report would be talking about the quality of the dinner as a whole. Well, the turkey wasn't bad. The mashed potatoes weren't bad. Everything was, specifically this. When I come in, I'm looking strictly at the turkey and I'm going, okay.
I guess he's thinking beans, greens, tomatoes, and all this other bullshit. That's what he must be thinking about. Because this analogy doesn't work for me. Didn't work for me earlier today, doesn't work for me now. And it's making me even pissed off more now with the Don Julio in me.
Okay, the turkey appears to be basted properly. It wasn't overcooked. I'm looking specifically at specific things. When it came to this forensic audit, it was made very clear to us, both through the interviews and through the information, the bank statements.
Who did what is what the people want to know, bro.
The credit card statements, that clearly if there was an issue with fraud or an issue with waste, it was going to be related to the expenditures. So the auditors, the city auditors, they are required to look at the accounts receivable, look at the state funding, look at all those things. We didn't have to do that. Instead, we focused our time purely on expenditure base, which is why we were able to see possibly a little bit more than they did. And again, once again, I wanted to choose the federal programs I knew that hadn't been tested yet to give that different perspective. Because as you saw, they repeated one of them for 2 years. So if someone knew that, maybe that whole federal program was the best. You never know.
Hello.
Hello.
Maddie Thomas, 2-minute clock person. We got more than 2 minutes tonight, right? Being cute. Anyway, did you have a point in your presentation where you said bidding was outsourced?
Correct.
That the company they outsourced it to, who paid them?
You guys did.
So
I am under the belief that most of the
All right, what she's saying is that so whenever work was done, like bids were being done, work was needed to be done in Lake City. The people who you guys in Lake City elected to make these decisions, they paid somebody else with your money to make these decisions. And the people that they paid didn't do their jobs either. So they paid the people to do the jobs, and these lazy bastards didn't even have enough anything about themselves to even look behind and make sure that it was being done correctly.
outsourcing, because again, I was looking specifically into that issue specifically. Most of the outsourcing that was done was directly to the general contractors for construction projects. So what was happening is the general contractor was accepting the bids from the subcontractors. The subcontractors were then brought to the city council's choice of approval, and therefore they were selected. And the best one example that I gave was the Digging Deeper specific vendor. because that one specifically, if you look at the city council minutes, they make it very clear. City council selected Digging Deeper as the vendor for this particular issue, this particular project. When I looked at the supporting documentation, I saw it was AECOM that collected the bids on behalf of the city. So that's what I mean by saying outsource.
Okay, now, I'm a person, I want to go line by line, okay? When you give us this summation or whatever you're going to do, it will be detailed enough where we can go line by line and track everything and answer all these questions we have. Because this place is packed. And these citizens, we're really concerned about that.
As I mentioned
what had happened
before,
to our city and everything else, right? Because this is tax dollars. Okay, you from California, you know about taxes. Nobody like to pay, we don't like to pay taxes.
Mine are higher, I'm sure.
Right. I know you're way higher. But when we do pay our tax dollars, we expect for them to be spent wisely.
Understood.
I'm not going to blame no auditor. I didn't vote for an auditor. These are people I voted for over here. And if you can't do what we vote for you for, there's something else. Don't put your name on the ballot. Because that's a contract.
Bottom fucking line.
With us and them. And I sit in city council, left-hand side, first seat. And I've been sitting there ever since I returned to the city because I trust but I verify. And my vote said that that's what you was going to do. If I pay somebody to cut my grass, I'm going to go see if my grass cut correctly, okay? And that's what I do. Every city council meeting, they know it, okay? There's a clock up there, give me 2 minutes. But we want to go line by line. We want to see what happened with this. Why was this focused on? Why wasn't this focused on? Because we got an air conditioner in this building. We paid $89,000 for. And Anonymous was one of the bidders. I know.
See, that's what I'm talking about right there, Mom. $89,000 and Anonymous was the bidder. Now, I'm going to tell you something I saw over there that I was watching it play out. I'm watching it play out nationally. I was watching these young, popping young, sisters, moving into these roles as executives and all this other stuff. And I was watching them push those old heads out. Because that lady voice right there rang true to me when I was there, when they were trying to raise the salary of the mayor of Lake City here. The head of all of this, who I don't see her there as of yet. And this lady here saying they had a bid for the air conditioning unit that the building that they're in right now for $89,000. And one of the persons who bid was Anonymous. Shaq, we got to find these people. I got to get these people on the podcast. I mean, if we can set up something, I will come to Lake City, big dog. I'll come to Lake City, bring the cameras, man.
You can request it. Now, who was Anonymous? I don't know. Who's on first, what's on second, and I don't know on third. But that better not happen no
I like her. She's sharp as a goddamn tack.
no more. Because some of us are senior citizens in this city. We worked hard all our life. And we need answers to why is the city in the shape it's in. I serve on the school board. Okay, when we have a budget, we go line by line. We had one person say, I've been up here 20 years. I ain't never went line by line. That person don't need to be on school board. Okay, so are we going to get that line by line thing?
You're going to get a lot.
And see, them the kind of ladies and them the kind of sisters that, again, this bullshit system that we in now is pushing them out. They push them out of the schools. That's why these kids so damn dumb. And they're pushing them out of these areas right here. You need matter-of-fact people there, period. Bottom line, you need matter-of-fact people there that don't give a damn about your feelings. They understand the greater mission. But that's where we at right now in society. knew I was going to be covering some crazy stuff, but here we go.
Line by line, meaning that when you receive my report, it will specifically show you the exact 40 transactions I tested for the bank statements, the exact 6 I tested for the bidding, the exact 60 that I tested for the credit card. You will be able to see the exact transactions that I tested and the results of those testings.
Now, this additional information, you got to give me another minute. This additional information, would that be included in your report? Because you indicated that you had come into some additional information. Am I right or wrong?
That is correct.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to the additional information, I do not plan on highlighting this additional information. Like, okay, here was the first.
So again, this is what I'm saying by like, bruh, like that's that talking down to people shit. This is that talking down to people shit right here. Why in the fuck did you bring it up if you're not gonna like these? That's what I'm saying. They ran these kind of people out to bring a bunch of dumb bitches in. Oh, fuck. Condescending. California. Sound like a damn Califaggot right now with this bullshit. But anyway, go ahead. You done pissed me off, dog.
First part that I did, and then here's the additional information that I received. I'm not going.
Listen, body language tells you right now. Look at when he did all this bullshit right here. I'm on it now.
That line by line thing.
You're going to get a line by line, meaning that when you receive.
Watch his body language go from confident right there, hand in the pocket. He's shook because he's like, God damn, these niggas smarter than I thought.
Receive my report, it will specifically show you the exact.
I thought I could come down here and get this little 40, 50,000, you know what I mean? And just talk that fancy talk to these people who want to talk fancy talk with them. And
40 transactions I tested for the bank statements, the exact 6 I tested for the bidding, the exact 60 that I tested for the credit card. You will be able to see the exact transactions that I tested and the results of those testing.
Now he being a smart ass with it right there. See how he leaned over like, okay, there you go, bitch.
Now this additional
Now Mom Duke that hit his ass back with that. This additional information that you talked about, because bitch, I was listening.
information, you got to give me another minute. This additional information, would that be included in your report? Because you indicated that.
Because you indicated, look at him, watch him shrink like a damn. Let's go.
You had come in.
I'm going too far right now, but anyway, I love this. Let's go.
Some additional information. Am I right or wrong?
That is correct.
And she hit him with the "Am I right or wrong?" That nigga head dropped like a bee. Let's go.
Now, when it comes to the additional information, I do not plan on highlighting this additional information.
Now, he don't plan on highlighting the additional information, but if you go back to his speech, his presentation, you feel what I'm saying? He planted that in there as if it was, the main idea of the whole thing. So I picked up on that also. And I like the way she, deposed his ass, and watch him break character right now and go into this whole trying to deflect and use his hands and distract you and all this other stuff. Watch. Oh, here we go.
Like, okay, here was the first part that I did, and then here's the additional information that I received. I'm not going to separate it out like that, but the information that I did receive will be added to the report.
So
go ahead, sir.
We won't know it's additional, but it just be in the report.
Agreed. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Just a quick question. I'm Jamie Daniels. In one of your early screens, you showed that you chose to work on expenses over revenue.
That is correct.
And there's a gap of about $3 million.
Correct.
When you put up the screen that showed where you had identified waste, like the fishing loss and so forth, that comes out to be about 1.1 million.
Correct.
You're going to give us a clue about where the other 2 million went?
Yes, as best as I can. There will be some that I will not be able to define specifically, but everything that I can define all the way to as close as I can get it to the 3, you should be able to see.
Is there a generic statement you can make about it?
A generic statement about the other things that are not listed on the
$2
floor.
million, right.
There were, so I got to go through everything by my by my report.
Right.
So obviously, as I mentioned before, we did go over the excessive travel, which that one specifically will be broken down a little bit more. As you noticed, that didn't have an amount.
I did.
We will go over, I already went over the 700 there, went over the 300 there. There was, well, here, I'll explain something else that was brought to my attention that we're following up on. So even though it won't be specific in the report, you can follow it up with me, is that we were told that there was $300,000 that was spent on designing a wing for a particular building, and that didn't go through, meaning nothing became of it. So that is something that I'm looking into to figure out is, again, when I read the city council minutes, I see that was brought forward, meaning that it was discussed.
How's SLED not a part of this investigation, or the feds? You're not gonna tell me they handle grant money and all that stuff perfectly if they did all this bullshit.
Whether are we going to do this? Are we not? But as far as when that was brought to my attention in a most recent interview, I need to confirm whether or not that actually happened.
Yeah,
because there's a difference between we're going to spend $300,000 to do the wing versus we spent $300,000 to design the wing. Those are two separate things. So I need to follow up and make sure, okay, is which one is it? So
it's just that most of us have been told we lost $3 million, and we're trying to figure out where and what and why.
Well, from the reports that I read, most of it was talking about $2 million. There was a $2 million
I was just going by the number.
A man trying to give you some grace. He know you don't understand how to deal with them people here. He trying to help you out. Like he's saying, bro, we just had $2 million, $3 million, whatever. Where the money at? That's what people want to know. All this other fancy talk. This is for people like me, podcasters, that break this kind of stuff down, listen to it. But the people who work every day, they taking this money out of their thing. They're not getting the services that they should be getting now. The police forces is down. The whatever. All this fluff talk, man.
Numbers that you put up.
Well, yeah, that was my numbers. I'm saying part of my job is also to be aware of what's being said outside of the vendor. And the things that I have read, the newspaper articles have made it sound more like 2 million, but obviously I show 3. So I'm just making it clear that I'm going to do my best to describe.
And that's what people are saying. So the newspaper saying 2, you had to look at the book, you saying 3.
As much as I can, the specific spendings.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, one more. Come on. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rebecca McCallum. I'm going to go off of what she said a little bit, but in the official forensic audit, will it be non-redacted or redacted that the people get?
That is an excellent question. And here's what I'm going to say. We will submit our report as is to the lawyers. If the lawyers decide to redact it, that is on them. Again, I do not have Esquire after my name. So if there is some ordinance that talks about.
All right. So for those of you who don't know what the word redact means, that means that they want to hide the names. No, you should not redact that. They did it. The hell you mean? How did they get that courtesy?
About privacy, then obviously that is up to the lawyer, not me.
And will there be names on the report as well? Or you don't know?
Some of them will have names, and specifically in regards, for example, to the credit card spending or the travel. So it will say specifically, I might have tested, this particular person's travel to this specific place. So there will be names within this, that type of stuff. But whether or not that is redacted or not, again, that is up to the city's decision. That's not mine.
Okay, thank you so much.
Can I have a follow-up?
Now, that's. Come on. She just. Come on, ask your question.
Yes.
This is
Peggy
it.
Brockington.
You saying, the auditor's telling you that y'all have to put, I said Peggy Brockington already, sir. Yes, I did.
We can't hear you through the mask.
Oh, well, I don't have to take that off because I'm not too many people in here. Thank you.
I don't blame you.
Hey, Peggy, and I heard you the first time, Miss Peggy. Yeah, they're playing like they can't hear you. So calm down, Miss Peggy, and get your question off, sweetie.
Anywho, you said that things gonna be put in place for the city going forward.
Correct.
So that checks and balances is what it's all about.
Correct.
Okay, that's good and fine too, but that money done spent and it done gone. I want to know about my water bill, why it's so high. Because if y'all passing that on to us, many of us are on fixed income. I still work, but I am a senior citizen. And on the past 4 or 5 months or 6 months, I don't pay over $700 for a water bill. And my check don't have that kind of money. I'm not working with the school district. So that's my question. And I know some other people
Working with the school district, and you can't pay a water bill. What are you talking about? Some stories that need to be told around here, some things that need to be talked about. And I'm talking about when they start talking about essential workers, I'm sure what she does there is essential. Just like the bus driver, just like the custodians. Again, another podcast. Here we go.
want to know about it too.
Well, here's
All
what I'll
this
say.
other
That is
stuff-
the most easiest question for me to pass to someone else from the city, because I am not going to know that answer. So I will open that up to these people over
Okay,
here.
I get what you're saying, but I'm just talking about the checks and balances from now on. If that's part of the reason why our water bill is high, because it's being passed on to us. That's just all what I want to know.
I am not aware of anything in that regard. So
Okay, well,
again, as far as I am concerned,
What? And again, she's trying to figure out what the connection is, because there is a fucking direct correlation between your water bill, and I'm gonna say in this case because of the mismanagement. Okay, I'm not saying there's a direct correlation because of the money they spent, but I would believe that because if they doing shit like this, they wasn't trying to upgrade the systems. It's like the same thing in Andrews. The pipes were never. Nothing under the ground was ever considered as if it was built by the gods and it was going to last forever. And that's the question she's asking. Okay, you arrogant.
the checks and balances that I am talking about are primarily in regards to keeping the funds.
All right, get your ass on the screen. Anyway, that's what it is. That's what happened there. Shaq, man, put it together, man. I'll pull up in damn Lake City and we'll do the biggest podcast ever, man. And it'll just be the people. I got 5 cameras. I got plenty damn microphones. Yeah, we can make that happen for real, for real. For real, for real. We can make that happen. That's exactly what I said. And then he told me he ain't gonna highlight that. I thought the auditors, everything's supposed to come out. No, you know. I can say a lot about that, but Don Julio is last shot of this Julio right here. I'm gonna get that to the mayor. Most important meeting in Lake City down, and the mayor isn't there. Just like a you like, I did that, right? Because I ain't trying to get sued no more. Can't afford it. But if you find yourself in a situation.
In times of trouble, you need someone who knows the law, knows the community, and knows how to fight for you. The law offices of Caesar McKnight, right here in Kingstree, South Carolina, is committed to protecting your rights and protecting your future. From criminal defense, personal injury, to family law. When the stakes are high, experience matters, and so does someone who listens. Call today and get a competent, passionate, and effective legal team on your side. Because when life hits hard, you don't have to go through it alone. The law offices of Caesar McKnight, justice for real people, serving the Kingstree and surrounding South Carolina communities. Call now or visit the website today or stop by for a free consultation.